Today, the truth prevailed. That's what Ken Paxton is saying tonight after his acquittal on 16 articles of impeachment. Paxton posted a lengthy statement on Twitter following the verdict in the Senate this afternoon. The Attorney General writing, quote, the sham impeachment trial coordinated by the Biden administration with liberal House Speaker Dade Phelan and his kangaroo court has cost taxpayers millions of dollars, disrupted the work of the Office of Attorney General, and left a dark and permanent stain on the Texas House. Paxton also thanked his wife, State Senator Angela Paxton, calling her, quote, a brave woman of deep faith, unquestionable integrity, and the light of our entire family. We have live team coverage tonight with Victor Jacobo with reaction from House managers, but we begin first with Adam Bennett, who has more on how the votes to acquit Paxton played out. Adam.
Cheryl, after a 2-week trial, day 2 of deliberations had just begun when word came down that those senator jurors were ready to vote. And with a couple of exceptions, those votes fell mostly along party lines.
Inside the Texas Senate chamber today, 30 senators voted on 16 articles of impeachment over the course of 1 hour with one result.
A finding of acquittal.
Suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton was cleared on all articles of impeachment up for consideration this trial.
Attorney General Ken Paxton Jr. is hereby, at this moment, reinstated to office.
His wife, Senator Angela Paxton, was not allowed to vote or deliberate. The articles alleged Paxton misused his office to benefit donor Nate Paul and retaliated against his top deputies who reported him to the FBI. Some of them watched from the Senate gallery today. Whistleblower Blake Brickman didn't want to talk to reporters as he left the state capitol. Senators from both sides told me the closed-door deliberations were cordial and members went through the evidence again. Ultimately, some Republicans told me House prosecutors did not meet the burden of proof, while some Democrats believe outside forces forced some members' hands.
I went through it. I listened every day, looking for the evidence to show that what had been done rose to the level of beyond a reasonable doubt.
I know there was an enormous amount of pressure being put on some of my colleagues, whether it was on social media or they were getting a lot of text messages. I know because I was sitting next to some of them and they just couldn't believe how much people were applying pressure.
Today, a majority of senators also voted to dismiss 4 remaining articles of impeachment that were set aside to be dealt with after the trial. Those deal with Paxton's ongoing felony securities fraud case out of Harris County. His next court hearing in that case will be next month. Cheryl.
And Adam, yeah, we also have reaction from the 2 teams that took on this case in the trial. Ken Paxton's defense team calling their effort to defend Ken Paxton a Herculean task ahead of them, but they said that they also criticized the impeachment process that led to the trial, ultimately saying that prosecutors lacked evidence.
This should have never happened, and I want to thank the court for giving us a just trial on behalf of Attorney General Ken Paxton. We are proud of the case we put on. We should not have had to prove our innocence, but that's what we did. And we believe that the court reached the right verdict. We're very proud of the work we did.
From the start, the defense's strategy was to discredit the impeachment process, the House members who brought it forward, and the witnesses who took the stand over the course of nearly 2 weeks. With Ken Paxton's acquittal, the Texas Senate appeared to agree the evidence and testimony presented at trial fell short. The House impeachment managers who helped present that evidence said they wouldn't change anything, and their belief remains it was their duty to put a spotlight on Ken Paxton's alleged corruption.
The Board of Managers presented.
Now, at that news conference with House impeachment managers, they said that they would not have changed anything, that they are proud of the work they did. But they also answered a question about why didn't Laura Olson, Ken Paxton's alleged mistress, or Nate Paul take the witness stand. And they explained that throughout this trial, sometimes criminal trial rules were applied and sometimes civil trial rules were applied. And when it came to witnesses pleading who were planning to plead the fifth, that criminal trial rules were being applied, and for that reason they could not compel those witnesses to take the stand. And otherwise, we could have seen Laura Olson or Nate Paul, two of the big players in this case, speak out in this trial. At the Capitol in Austin, Victor Jacobo, KHOU 11 News. Cheryl, back to you.
A lot of folks wondering about that. Thank you so much, Victor. Well, after the vote to acquit, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick blasted the House, calling the impeachment process rushed and secretive.
In the House, the vote to send the articles of impeachment against the Attorney General to the Senate happened in only a few days, with virtually no time for 150 members to even study the articles. The Speaker and his team rammed through the first impeachment of a statewide official in Texas in over 100 years, while paying no attention to the precedent that the House set in every other impeachment before. In the past, the House had transparent and open investigations for all to see, including other House members. The target of the investigation was notified and invited to attend with counsel and given an opportunity to cross-examine witnesses that were placed under oath before testimony was taken. In the next regular session, we should amend the Constitution on the issue of impeachment as currently written that allowed this flawed process to happen.
House Speaker Dade Phelan fired back at Patrick, saying in a statement, quote, "I find it deeply concerning that after weeks of claiming he would preside over this trial in an impartial and honest manner, Lieutenant Governor Patrick would conclude by confessing his bias and placing his contempt for the People's House on full display." Today's decision marked the end of this historic impeachment trial, but there are likely changes to come as a result. I am joined now by KHOU political analyst Bob Stein. Good afternoon, Bob. How does today's decision impact Republicans from here on out?
It's going to be a rough road. The governor's announced that he's going to call a special session to deal with unfixed or uncompleted measures, including school vouchers. And you saw Lieutenant Governor Patrick, who tried to, at the end of the last session, patch things up with the House, clearly make what I would call a harsh, critical statement. I think they're going to be very tough times for the Republican Party in Texas, particularly between the House and the Senate. One might say that it's a good thing that the legislature only meets every 2 years. But this political battle is not over yet and will show up, I think, in the next coming months and then going into the spring primaries. Attorney General Paxton's returned to his office, and I think he has gotten a license to continue doing what he's done. And there were 60 members, Republican members of the House. That's 70% of all the members of the Republican caucus had voted for impeachment. Many of them, I think, are going to be looking over their shoulders or looking forward to being primaried possibly in March.
Bob, it appeared to everyone that there was a mountain of evidence, thousands of pages and exhibits House managers presented during the trial. But at the end of the day, not enough senators felt it was enough to impeach Paxton. Where did the House managers fall short here?
Not altogether clear they fell short in terms of providing evidence. I think what you see here is that Lieutenant Governor Patrick, Speaker Phelan, they control their legislative bodies. And it was very clear after the end of the trial where Lieutenant Governor Patrick felt. He felt this indictment, this impeachment, was unholy, and he's going to move to make constitutional amendments. He had made his mind up long before the trial, and I think many members of the Senate, of the Republican caucus, are in, how should I say, Lieutenant Governor Patrick's home, if you want. I think only two, you had Hancock and Nichols, are the only two Republicans that broke and voted with the 12 Democrats. But I think this was the Lieutenant Governor's decision at the beginning of this trial, and he made it very clear to his members, to his caucus, how he felt about it. They shared that position. Only two, I think, and I think even one probably is long gone in the next election. Mr. Hancock, we could be uncertain about that, but I'm not altogether convinced that the evidence wasn't there. And I think what'll be interesting is seeing how the national press handles this. There were some very disturbing pieces of evidence here that should have concerned people. Even the public opinion polling on this, which is somewhat, sparse, showed that even Republicans felt there was compelling evidence. But nevertheless, he is now back in operation at the AG's office. I think it will also affect his ability to attract what I will call some of the best legal minds. I think people will have second thoughts about working. And of course, there are other trials that he has to go through.
Clearly, yes, not the end for him. It'll be interesting to see where the House goes from here. Thank you so much, Bob Stein, for joining us this afternoon. For more on the historic trial known as a breakdown of how the Senate voted on each article of impeachment, just text the word Paxton to 713-526-1111.